Right now, I'm sitting in Jackson Square, right across from Cafe Du Monde. It's one of my favorite spots whenever I come to visit New Orleans. When I first began my research into the ancestral history, especially during those times when I would come back to New Orleans during my leave period, I would come over to the city and sit here in this little square and think about what it was like back in the early 18th century. What were the people like um, that populated this particular area? And there's a strange sense that I have always gotten um, about the presence of having been here before. It may sound kind of strange, kind of odd, but I remember one time I went home and I asked my mom, I said, Mom, do you know if we have any ancestors or relatives that lived in the city of New Orleans, particularly in the French Quarter? And she said she did not know or think so, but I believe we may have had some folks that were living in St. John the Baptist Parish. I said, oh, that's interesting. She said, why? Because well, whenever I'm over the river in the French Quarter, I have this strange sensation of having been here at another time period. I know it's kind of strange that I'm speaking of this, but I was just curious because I'm sitting in Jackson Square and I can feel a presence here unlike nothing before. So she looked at me as, always, and probably said, maybe you need to stop going over there. But anyways, when I started doing the family research, I uncovered some information that on the very street, not too far from where I'm sitting, is called St. Anne Street. And I was able to locate the existence of an ancestor who came to Louisiana in 1720. Um, how did I get to that point? It's another story, but the discovery of having found ancestors here in the city that far back was very, very intriguing to me. So as my research started to unfold, there were quite a few things that was able to be uncovered. Uh, Take, for instance, the discovery of two African slaves that arrived in Louisiana sometime between I would say 1723 and 1728. I have yet to determine the exact date, but I've located uh, this document that held them at, listed under an inventory owned by a person of German ancestry who arrived here in New Orleans around 1722, but actually arrived in Louisiana around 1720. And his name was Jacques Michel Zorin. Uh, an interesting piece of history that attached that person to my ancestors was the fact that one, he owned my two ancestors, Fanchon Lavelle, a daughter that I later discovered named Madeline, and five males that the names of them have yet to be uncovered, along with several other family members, for a total of 16 people. But as I started to research and find information about Jacques Michel Zorin, I uncovered that he was a master carpenter. He worked for the Company of the Indies. The Company of the Indies, part of the John Law concession, received a 25-year lease on the management of the importation of slaves, exportation of natural resources coming out of the French colony at that point in time it was called French Colonial Louisiana. When Zerang arrived and came to the city, he came for the purpose of building part of the workforce. As I mentioned, he was a master carpenter. And I uncovered the fact that the church over to my left, if you look over here, which is the St. Louis Cathedral, This is I think the third really version of the church. The first version was built and completed in 1720, and Jacques Michel Zerang was responsible for building, or he was part of a building crew that actually put that particular building up. There is another building that I'll take you after we finish this here. It was the Ursuline Convent, and I'll take you over and let you see what that looks like also. He actually won the contract after completing the church in 1727 and was awarded an opportunity to build another building, and that was completed in 1734. But so I share that little bit of history because of the fact that Jacques Michel Zerang actually owned several ancestors of ours, and he was known as a prominent individual within the company. So as I started to uncover a lot more information about this particular person, it also led me over to Algiers, right across. If you take the ferry right across over on the other side over here, there was a parcel of land that was cleared around 1724, and it was the place where the African slaves came into Louisiana and came into New Orleans itself, and they were housed. They were part of the workforce, the work crew, and those individuals were ferried back and forth each day and each night. So this whole process of learning about the history of New Orleans during that particular time had become very fascinating. I have lots more to share, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys a sense of this place and that particular time period. So we're going to walk around a little more and capture some other things that we can share with you, and we'll get back with you later.